What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video, and today we have an updated bracketology only a week away from Selection Sunday. We are getting very close to March Madness, and we got my updated projected field of 68. So subscribe if you guys are new. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy a ton of March Madness content coming your way. Let's get into this bracket. All right, guys, I got our first two regions here for you, and we will have the Region 3 and 4 about halfway through this video. If you're just looking to skim through, you can skip to that part and just look at the other half of the bracket, but we're going to break down this half of it first. The green teams are just teams that have already cemented their place into the tournament by winning their conference. We have 5 bids already punched to the big dance, and we have 2 in these 2 regions and 3 in the other 2 regions. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I guess I should go over the first teams out first because Boise State got their spot taken by Xavier. I really wanted to find a spot for Boise State. Do they deserve it over a Oklahoma or an Arkansas? It's pretty close. I'm actually pretty interested to see where the committee goes with the last 4 teams in. But I definitely believe that teams like UC San Diego, VCU, Drake, they deserve an 11 seed over the teams on the bubble. So my first 4 teams out, Boise State, really wanted to find a spot for them. It's not over for them yet. They can have a good Mountain West tournament. Obviously, if they win the Mountain West tournament, they'll get an auto bid. But if they can have a good tournament, they'll probably get in. North Carolina is going to have to make a run in the ACC tournament, at least to the semifinals, to have at least at any type of a chance. But really, they want to get to the championship game because that will probably mean they will beat either Duke, Clemson, or Louisville. I think they have to beat at least one of those teams on their path through the ACC tournament to have a chance to get in. Colorado State is another Mountain West team that is just very close, very similar to Boise State, just didn't quite make it in. And then UC Irvine, actually, for an at-large, is my first 4 team out. They can still get in by winning the Big West Conference tournament. My next 8 out are Nebraska, Texas, Villanova, Wake Forest, Cincinnati, George Mason, SMU, and Dayton. All those teams still have a chance to play in their conference tournament, except for Nebraska, who didn't make the Big Ten tournament. So I'm going to say Nebraska is pretty safely not going to make the NCAA tournament this year, unfortunately. Their loss to Iowa today kind of knocked them out. So that was a tough one there for the Nebraska Ballers over there. But let's break down the teams that are in the field of 68 up to this point. Starting with our South region, we still have Auburn as our top overall seed. I know they had a very bad week, and I did debate putting Duke as my top overall seed, but you look at that Auburn quad 1 record, nobody comes even close. They played in so many quad 1 games, of course, all throughout the SEC play, and even through the non-con, they have huge wins. I had to keep Auburn as my number 1 overall seed, but Duke is closer and closer to taking the number 1 overall seed. And if Duke wins the ACC tournament and Auburn loses before, I'd say, the championship game, I'd say they'd probably have to give Duke the top overall seed. But it will depend on what happens in the conference tournaments. 16 seed, we got Southern Illinois University of Edwardsville. I want to say is the E. Punched their ticket. They were the first punch ticket to the big dance, and they get the opportunity to play Southern in the first 4 games, and if they can beat them, they get the pleasure of playing Auburn in the first round, in the round of 64. So shout out to SIUE for punching their ticket to the big dance. They're here as a 16 seed. They'll be going up against Southern in the first 4 game. UConn as an 8 seed. I feel like UConn as an 8 seed, you could definitely argue them to maybe be a 7, but I feel pretty good about my 7s. There's no way I would have UConn above any of them, to be honest, at this point. West Virginia at a 9. They jumped up to a 9 from a 10 from me. They're on a 3-game win streak. Looking a little bit better. I'm a WVU fan. In my opinion, I would rather have a 10 seed and play a 2 seed in the second round than have an 8 or a 9 and have to play a 1 seed in the second round. That's just my opinion, especially this year where the 1 seeds are very, very, very strong. If you get into a region with Auburn or Duke, me as a West Virginia fan, I do not want to see either of them in the second round. That's even if we can get past UConn. But Louisville as a 5 seed, I feel like this is one of my bolder takes. I'm pretty high on like the top tier of the ACC, and that is Duke, Louisville, and Clemson. Higher than most, and Louisville's been hanging around that 6-7 seed for a lot of the last few weeks in a lot of brackets. And I know I just said 6-7. I'm not trying to be in an edit. It's just naturally you say it when you're talking about seeds. But Louisville, 5 seed. I'm pretty high on them. Higher than most. I think they deserve a 5 seed over some of these teams on the 6th line who have been losing recently, like a Missouri. So Louisville got to bump up. 12 seed, we got Oklahoma or Xavier in the last 4 in. I feel like Oklahoma, Xavier, they've done enough to maybe sneak in there. You could definitely argue Boise should deserve it over some of these teams, but I feel like Oklahoma, Xavier, the perfect last 4 in teams at this point. That would be a tremendous game. And if Oklahoma wins, that would actually be a rematch between Oklahoma and Louisville from earlier this season, where Oklahoma actually won the battle for Atlantis over Louisville in the championship game. So interesting rematch there, where Oklahoma versus Louisville was a rematch, and the 12 seed was actually the winner of that first matchup. So interesting there. 4 seed, we do have Wisconsin here, and we'll get to my Big Ten team that I have as a 3 seed in the other 2 regions that I actually did put over Wisconsin. That is definitely debatable, and I'll just tell you who it is. It's Maryland. I have Maryland as a 3 seed. You could definitely say Wisconsin maybe deserves the 3 seed, Maryland as the 4. I wouldn't push back too hard on that because I definitely think that is definitely realistic, but I think Maryland's been playing so good lately. They definitely deserve it, in my opinion. So I put Maryland at the 3 seed. But it is very close between Maryland and Wisconsin on which one of those Big Ten teams maybe deserves the 3 over the 4. 13 seed Lipscomb, our other team that punched their ticket to the dance. They're in the ASUN conference, so shout out to Lipscomb. They will be dancing, and they'll be going up against the Wisconsin Badgers in the first round, according to my bracketology. Arizona as a 6 seed. Arizona fell down a little bit, honestly, for me. I think they're going to be around a 5-6 in the tournament at this point. That just feels right for Arizona. But yeah, they were on a nice hot streak there for a while. They kind of cooled off, but they're still playing really well. They're not losing every game, so that's always helps. 11 seed, they'll be going up against San Diego State. Kind of a West Coast battle there in the South region between Arizona and San Diego State. That would be a fun one. Texas A&M as our 3 seed. Yeah, big win over Auburn earlier in the week. I think last Tuesday. That was a really good win for Texas A&M. They needed it because they were on a little bit of a losing streak before that. They were falling down to really a 5, but they're back up to a 3 for me right now. And they'll be going up against out of the Sun Belt. They just made the Sun Belt championship game over South Alabama. That is Arkansas State. So one more win away for Arkansas State, the Red Wolves, to punch their ticket to the dance. We'll see if they can do it. UCLA as our 7 seed, they actually have a pretty good Quad 1 record. Honestly, when I was making this, I was looking at the Quad 1 records. I was looking at the net rankings, the KenPom rankings, all that good stuff. UCLA really kind of stood out. I did not think that they had such a good Quad 1 record. I'm pretty sure they're 10-7 or 9-7, something like that in Quad 1 games. That was pretty impressive to me. And yeah, I don't see them being put under a 7 seed just because of how good that Quad 1 record is. It was very impressive. And they'll be going up against Georgia in the first round there as our 10 seed. Georgia, pretty hot team. Well, not really a hot team, but, they got some big wins this year, including over a potential second-round matchup against St. John's. That would be pretty interesting. If Georgia can knock off UCLA, most likely will be facing the Johnnies, who they beat earlier in the season in the round of 32. And speaking of St. John's, I got them as a 2 seed. I mean, they are the clear best team in the Big East Conference. They've been killing it lately. They have one of the best defenses in the entire country, if not the best. And I think they deserve a 2 seed. Definitely no lower than a 3. But I got the Johnnies here as a 2 seed, and they'll be going up against Towson in the first round. East Region, the Dukies. Like I said, you could definitely argue they deserve the top overall seed, but still, No debate about it. They are a top 2 seed there with Auburn. They'll be going up against Quinnipiac or Navy. Navy is in the championship game of the Patriot League versus American. So American University versus the United States Navy Academy. Pretty cool there in the Patriot League. If Navy can get that bid, that would be crazy because they actually have a negative record. And I'm pretty sure American might be the only team in that league that had a positive record. So, yeah, safe to say whoever comes out of the Patriot League will be a 16 seed. 8 seed, we do have Kansas, and Kansas falling all the way down to an 8. You could definitely argue a 7 seed for them. I felt good about my 7s. Like I said, similar to UConn, I couldn't have Kansas over any of my 7s. I think they all deserved them over Kansas. Vanderbilt here at a 9 seed. I like the way Vanderbilt's been playing lately. They definitely submitted themselves as a tournament lock here as an at-large. Very good. West Virginia, Vanderbilt, first-year head coaches in Darren DeVries and Mark Byington, both getting 9 seeds in their first seasons at their new programs as the coach. So very good there for both of them, obviously. Number 5, we got BYU, and maybe controversial here. Did I jump them up too far, too high? Let me know. But I got them all the way up as a 5 seed. They are one of the hottest teams in the country. And then you got a team like Missouri, who's my 6 seed, who kind of slowed down recently. You know, they've been losing. They've just lost to Kentucky at home again. They lost to Vanderbilt. They've been losing lately. So I felt like BYU, it was justified to move them all the way up to a 5. I could definitely see if you wanted to keep them around a 6, but they definitely could not be an 8 or 9 anymore. They had to move up. I felt like a 5, honestly. They've been playing like one of the best teams in the country. Ohio State and Arkansas, my other last 4 teams in. Like I said, you can argue Boise State over any of these 4 teams, honestly. Ohio State, Arkansas, I felt like they've maybe done enough to just barely sneak in up to this point. So they are probably my last 2 teams. I think it would go, I don't know, maybe Oklahoma, Xavier. Maybe Xavier is one of my last 2 teams in. The order, I don't know. All 4 of these teams barely sneaking in, though. Kentucky as our 4 seed. Yep, that win at Missouri. Missouri, you know, not many people have been able to win there this year. You know, is Kentucky the only team to win on the road at Missouri this year? They might be, that I can think of off the top of my head. Tough place to play, and they were able to get it done. I moved them back up to a 4 seed. They were a 5 seed for me. I felt like people were very much overseeding them as a 3. Maybe they deserve a 3 now. I still kind of feel like a 4 is perfect for them at this point. But I got them versus Akron out of the MAC conference. Missouri as a 6 seed, like I mentioned, they've been losing lately. They kind of fell. I had them as a 4 and Kentucky as a 5. Now I got Kentucky as the 4 and Missouri down to a 6. They're going to need a big postseason here in the SEC tournament to get back up to a 5 or a 4 here because they had a pretty rough end to the regular season. VCU is who they'll get. Not a good draw there, as VCU is going to be very tough to beat in March Madness. That would be a fantastic matchup in the first round. Missouri versus VCU. That might be one of the only matchups where I don't want to pick VCU in the first round. I think I might actually trust Missouri there in that one. VCU's been playing very good. They did just lose to Dayton at home in their last regular season game. We'll see how they do in the A-10 tournament, but before that one, they were playing really good. 3 seed, we got Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a very strong 3 seed in this region. Very good team. They're the only team to beat Houston in the Big 12 play this year. So that's something there. And yeah, very good offense. Very sneaky 3 seed there. Furman is who they will play. Furman just knocked off Chattanooga today in their conference and made the championship. So it is going to be Furman or Wofford out of that league. And I don't think that they'll get any higher than a 14 seed, but they do get a 14 seed. That's better than 15 or 16. So do they have a chance against Texas Tech? I doubt it. I really wanted to see Chattanooga, I'm not going to lie. But we get the 5 and the 6 seed out of that league playing in the championship, Furman or Wofford will punch their ticket here, I guess, tomorrow on Monday. So that will be a good game. Illinois here as a 7 seed. Definitely climbing. You could argue they deserve a 6. And I wouldn't be too mad at you if you had Illinois as a 6 seed. But honestly, my 6 seeds are pretty strong. I feel like I had to keep Illinois as a 7, but still definitely can't go any lower than that. Utah State is my 10 seed out of the Mountain West Conference. Tennessee as the 2 seed here in this region definitely deserves a 2 seed. I feel like the 1s and 2s are, pretty locked in as some of the top 8 teams. Other than, you could argue certain other team over St. John's, but I would have St. John's as a 2 seed. And then for my 15 seed, they will be going up against Central Connecticut. Let's get to our other 2 regions. Regions 3 and 4 are Midwest region and our West region. And yeah, arguably, I'm going to go ahead and get to probably the biggest debate right now, and that's who deserves the last 1 seed, because Alabama did just beat Auburn on the road, but I did give it to Florida. Florida also beat Auburn on the road this year, and Florida also beat Alabama. So yeah, I decided to give it to Florida. I feel like that they deserve it over Alabama. Alabama is definitely my top 2 seed, but I gave Florida the last 1 seed. Let me know what you guys think. Who deserves the last 1 seed? I feel like it is Auburn, Duke, Houston, and then Florida or Alabama. Who deserves the last 1 seed? I got Florida right now. But Houston is my 1 seed in the Midwest. I got them going up against the Vermont Catamounts. I think Norfolk's probably the strongest 16 seed. 8 seed, we got Mississippi State. Feel like a pretty perfect 8 seed, honestly. If I were Mississippi State, I would want to try to get up to a 7 for sure before Selection Sunday. They'll have to do it in the SEC tournament. Creighton as a 9 seed. Creighton is definitely a sleeper to maybe win the Big East tournament. If they can do so, that can maybe get them up to a 7 or maybe even a 6. Especially if they can knock off St. John's in the championship or something, that would be huge for the Blue Jays. Get off that 8-9 line. That would be my goal. I would not want to sit there at the 8 or 9. 5 seed is Oregon. Oregon has been playing a lot better recently. They have a good non-con. They have a really good win against the 2 seed in this region in Alabama. I feel like they deserve a 5 seed. They have a pretty good quad 1 record as well. They deserve a 5. Liberty as our 12 seed out of Conference USA. I feel like they are a pretty strong 12 seed. I think Conference USA is pretty strong. Middle Tennessee State, I kind of cooled off on, so I like Middle Tennessee State, but I watched a few games this year where they were a little iffy. But they did impress me in a few different games this season, including when they were hanging in there with Tennessee on the road earlier this season. So you got them out of Conference USA and also Jacksonville State. So one of those 3, if any of those 3 make the tournament out of Conference USA, they will be a scary 12 or 13, whatever they draw. 4 seed, we do have the Clemson Tigers. Like I said, I got Louisville up as a 5. I got Clemson as a 4. Obviously, Duke as a 1. I'm pretty high on the top tier teams in the ACC. Really, the only 3 ACC teams that are going to make it. So, yeah, I got Clemson here as a 4. 13 seed is Yale out of the Ivy League. 6 seed, we got Marquette. They kind of fell down to a 6 for me. I've actually seen some people have them as 7s. Yeah, you could argue the only 7 I could see over Marquette is possibly Illinois. I would probably still have Marquette, though. 11 is Baylor. Baylor is, probably a lock to still make the tournament, but they're definitely very iffy, which I'm glad about. I don't want to see West Virginia, my team, as like the bubble team in the Big 12. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Baylor. So it seems like no matter what West Virginia does in the Big 12 tournament, even if they lose first round, they can still sneak in to the tournament somehow. Whereas Baylor, that's not necessarily a guarantee. So that is good for me. Maryland here as a 3 seed. Like I mentioned earlier, it was between Maryland or Wisconsin for my last 3 seed, I decided to give it to the Terps. I mean, I feel like they deserve it. They've been playing really well lately. Other than a half-court buzzer beater against Michigan State to lose that one, they've been winning a ton and against some really good teams. So Maryland here gets the 3 seed for me. They'll be going against Northern Colorado, who was winning by, I believe, 20 whenever I started recording this video, and I think that they are in the quarters or the semifinals of the Big Sky Conference. So look out for Northern Colorado. I definitely feel like they could be a pretty good 14 or 15 seed to look out for. 7 seed, we do have the Memphis Tigers. They've been sitting on that 7 seed for me, that 7 line. I could see them maybe getting up to a 6, potentially falling down to an 8. Hopefully for Memphis' case, they don't. I think that would only happen if they lost very early in the American, but they feel like a 7 right now. Indiana as a 10 seed. Indiana kind of really started turning up lately. It was looking like they were a projected team out of the field, but ever since they beat Purdue, they've been playing a lot better, winning, and yeah, they're in the tournament, and they're in kind of comfortably now as a 10 seed, so look out for the Hoosiers. And the 2 seed in this region is Bama, who just beat Auburn. That is a very strong 2 seed. Of course, my top 2 seed right now. Them and Michigan State are my 2 top 2 seeds. But Alabama, like I said, there's a debate for them or Florida to be the final 1 seed. I decided to give it to Florida, but Alabama will be going up against Robert Morris, the 15 seed here in the Midwest region. In our final region, we have the West region. We have 3 teams who punched their ticket to the big dance in this region. Florida is our top seed in this region, our last 1 seed. They'll be going up against, in my opinion, the strongest 16 seed, which is Norfolk State. I still think Florida would win, of course, but they are definitely the strongest 16 seed. It would make sense that they go up against the last 1 seed. So there, and then 8 seed, we got Gonzaga. Gonzaga could definitely push up to a 7 seed. I debated putting them at the 7 line. I do think they kind of maybe deserve it, but they not over any of my 7 seeds right now, especially with Ole Miss getting the win against Tennessee. That kind of helped them get back to the 7 line, in my opinion. So Gonzaga here as an 8. New Mexico as my 9. They are the top team in the Mountain West, the highest seeded team in the Mountain West. 5 seed, we do have Purdue. Purdue's been on and off lately, so depending on how they do in the Big Ten, I could see them ranging anywhere from a 4 to a 6. McNeese is our 12 seed in this region. McNeese State, definitely a sleeper team. Been there last year, got blown out. Looking for, definitely kind of like a comeback, in the tournament. Like, see if they can actually, they were so hyped up heading into the tournament last year, got blown out by Gonzaga. So we'll see if they can do it this year. St. Mary's as a 4 seed. Yeah, St. Mary's, I feel like they deserve it. They've been killing it lately. They have a good quad 1 record. Not many quad 1 games, but I believe they're like 4-1 in those games. So that is pretty good, and they have been dominating the West Coast Conference. So I think if they win out, which is 2 more games in the West Coast tournament, because they're locks to the semifinals, the way that tournament's set up. If they go 2-0 and win the West Coast Conference tournament, I feel like they will get this 4 seed. So right now, I got them as a 4. And they'll be going up against High Point, who submitted their ticket to the big dance here today. So shout out to High Point, making their first ever March Madness tournament. I am very high on High Point. As you guys know, if you guys have been watching my channel this season, they have a very good offense, one of the best in the mid-majors, so look out for High Point. That will be a fantastic matchup against St. Mary's defense. So super fun, 4-13 there. 6 seed, we do have Michigan. They've really fallen off a couple lines here because they were up to a 4 seed, down to a 6. They just lost again to Michigan State here today on the road. That's not an awful loss, but they've been losing at home as well the last few games. So Michigan definitely fell down here to a 6 seed. I feel like that's where they deserve to be at this point. And you could maybe even argue Illinois deserves a 6 seed over Michigan as well. So that is actually interesting to think about right there. We'll see what happens in the Big Ten tournament. UC San Diego is our 11 seed. I love that matchup for UC San Diego. I would be picking them over Michigan in my bracket 11/6. If that were to be the bracket, UC San Diego is a fantastic offense. Michigan has, some good offense. They play through their bigs, as we know. But if Michigan can't, has a tough shooting day, I think UC San Diego would definitely win that game. Illinois or Iowa State as our 3 seed. I've seen some people bring Iowa State down to a 4 seed. I can definitely see where they are coming from when they did that, but I would still have Iowa State as a 3 seed at this point. I feel like their non-con is really good. Their quad 1 is still very good. They need a Big 12 or good Big 12 tournament run. I feel like to submit themselves as a 3 seed, them and Texas Tech are 2 3 seeds that I have out of the Big 12 conference. 14 seed, we do have Grand Canyon, and Grand Canyon, very good team out of the WAC conference. It's going to be them or Utah Valley. We've seen Grand Canyon get to the tournament last year, make it to the second round, but I do have them. If they do make it, I don't see them getting any higher than a 13 seed, but I really think that they would be a 14 if they do make it this year. Next up, we have Ole Miss as our 7 seed, and that win against Tennessee really got them off that 8-9 line, which is very key. I feel like a 7 seed is definitely where you want to be. As I mentioned a few times during this video, you want to be at a 7 or a 10, much rather than an 8-9. So that is good for Ole Miss, and they'll going up against the very hot Drake team who just won the Missouri Valley Conference tournament today and submitted their ticket to the big dance, and they get a 10 seed. That is very good for a team out of the Missouri Valley. They've been dominating this season. I think that they have like 28, 20, or 29 wins this year. Very impressive. They deserve it. They're here as a 10 seed. On our last 2 seed, we have Michigan State, who is the top team in the Big Ten. They have been killing it lately, and they get the 2 seed in the West region, and going up against Omaha, who already punched their ticket, even though they are playing in their conference tournament championship right now against St. Thomas, because St. Thomas is new to Division I, so they are ineligible to make the NCAA tournament, which is an awful rule that I think you have to wait, 3 years? You can't make the NCAA tournament in your first 3 years of Division I. Probably the stupidest rule in college basketball. But because of that, win or lose, they're playing right now. I think it's at halftime as I'm recording this video, Omaha versus St. Thomas. Win or lose, Omaha will be in the big dance. So hopefully they just win. But honestly, if they lose, hopefully the NCAA gets some backlash for that and we can get that rule changed, because I would love to see St. Thomas in the tournament if they were to win the Summit League. So let me know what you guys think. I know you guys probably hate that rule too. Obviously, if a team wins their league, they should be rewarded by getting a ticket to the NCAA tournament. But Omaha has punched their ticket. Did they win? I'm not sure. It's at halftime right now as I'm finishing recording. But let me know what you guys think about these teams, guys. Do you guys think that Boise State, North Carolina, any of these teams deserve spots over my last 4 teams in? Or do you think that I got it right? Who do you guys think should be a higher seed? Who should be lower? Or maybe you think that I just got everything completely right, which I doubt it. Everybody has their own opinions on these teams, which is what makes it great. We'll see what the committee's opinions are here next week. But yeah, guys, subscribe for more college basketball content. A ton more coming your way. And thank you so much for watching.